Joined by Joel's Baby Rage, also known as Cinderin. Sin, we're bringing you in finally for ESL One. You psyched?
You're getting started on Dankfurt right
Yes,
away?
I am. I'm getting started on Dankfurt right away, just for you, man.
All right,
so,
that's good.
Cloud9 versus IG. We heard their predictions. Start off with your predictions.
For the series in general, or for this particular game?
For the series, and we'll talk about the draft after.
Well, going in, I thought IG were the favorites, but I feel like, you know, if I could backtrack or just change my mind right now, I would probably switch that, at least with this game in mind. I think I like Cloud9's draft a lot here. When it comes to IG, I feel like their support duo has to get a lot done, and they have, sure, Crystal Maiden can be great in the beginning, but the synergy with Dazzle isn't really that great. It's like one defensive and one kind of, you know, I wouldn't say hyper-aggressive support early on, but as a support, you generally want to get something done with early so that you can set up for a mid-game in which you will potentially be able to get the BKB or Glimmer Cape to allow you to get the ults off. And at the same time, you looked this up before, this is the third time IG played Legion, or fourth time, IG played Legion Commander. They've never won. So
they have never won. They're 0-3 with it.
That's going to be another.
And they also haven't played it in this patch at all. So it feels like this is somewhat of a reveal from IG that, like, hey, we're actually running Legion Commander where basically no one else is. Do you think it's actually strong in this lineup? I mean, they talked about, okay, it has Lockdown versus the Queen of Pain, but you also mentioned synergy with the IG lineup, specifically with the Dazzle.
Yeah, I don't think they would have picked the Legion Commander if it wasn't for the Shallow Grave. I think that's the setup they're looking for, where they can, at the very least, have the entirety of the duel expire. And then even if you lose the duel, you at least don't beat over damage, right? Duel's duration is, until level 3, it's actually shorter than Shallow Grave. So there's definitely some synergies to be found there. The problem I'm seeing is, I think it was Hani who pointed it out, or Merlini as well, that you're playing it against a Shaker, against Blinding Light, and against Fire Spirits. Like, how much damage can you actually output with this Legion Commander's duel? I mean, we're going to have to wait and see, but I think he's got a hard game ahead of him.
All right, so starting things off here, game number 1, IG versus Cloud9. We are going to be having a pretty normal setup here for the laning phase. We've got our Legion Commander at the bottom lane, Ferrari playing that Dragon Knight mid, and then a defensive tri-lane for IG, trying to zone out the bo3 Phoenix. We've got Fauna on that SF mid, and then our bottom lane, an Eternal Envy safe lane carry. Now, we were looking at the draft, and it was kind of like, okay, this Queen of Pain feels like it's got to be safe lane, but this leaves Cloud9 very, very aggressive options with the draft. They don't want to go too late, right?
Well, depends how much farm they give to No Tail, and historically when he plays Shaker, I feel like he gets very little. Even in this game, I'm curious to see if it's actually going to be him or Misery who gets the 4 position on Cloud9's lineup. If they go late game, I think they're reliant on getting a Shaker with a couple of core items, so that even though they need to compensate for the lack of physical damage, basically, right? They've got a Shadow Fiend as their only carry. You're fighting into Dragon Knight, LC, and Gyro, and come late game, physical damage just scales better than magic damage, although, you know, Queen of Pain with Sonic Wave ×2 with a Refresher Orb can generally go very well, or go very late into the game and still have an impact. So I'm not completely sure. Yeah,
particularly against agility carries, right, who are very naturally kind of low on HP but high on armor. The Gyrocopter could be very susceptible to that. Watching both our offlaners here, bo3 does pick up his level 2, which is pretty critical for him being able to fight up against supports just like this. Of course, he's already a bit low, so he has to be a little careful. Meanwhile, our bottom lane, we saw our Legion Commander getting some decent CS with the overwhelming odds being spammed out. You see the early Mango going for that 2-minute rune. It looks like IG want to try and snag both, but No Tail is not going to allow that to happen. He even blocks out Chuan, but Fauna is not there to be able to provide the assist, but maybe they can still get Chuan. bo3 is sitting on the side here, and Chuan is dropping quite low. Faith is going to be able to come in from the side and help out a little bit. There goes a heal, and bo3 is going to be forced back into a dive. So sure enough, Chuan will be able to escape. bo3 is actually the one who gets closer to death.
And speaking of Chuan, he's gone for Frostbite into Arcane Aura build, standard when you run Crystal Maiden in more of a semi-jungle role, which I think is what she's best suited for, as Fisher almost gets Ferrari on the side they were looking for, but didn't manage right then. So Chuan is, of course, providing this aura for the other lanes. It's nice for the Dragon Knight, it's nice for the Legion Commander to have this influx of mana. It allows you to keep running Press the Attack much more frequently than you would usually. But at the same time, I could really imagine a lot of lineups where that Arcane Aura would feel like it had a bigger impact. They're not really benefiting from it on burning. He's playing a safe lane Gyro who's just auto-attacking creeps right now. Or not auto-attacking, he is last hitting after all. But, they aren't getting that much benefit out of the Aura so far. And I'd be curious to see what direction he goes for with his CM build here.
To build on that, you're talking about the Aura allowing our Legion Commander to spam out a lot of press D attack. I'm not sure if any of our analysts mentioned this, but because we're having a safe lane Queen of Pain, this means the Shadow Strike is kind of useless in the laning phase here up against a Legion Commander who constantly removes that debuff. Ferrari is going to take some damage here, but fortunately was not pushed to the wrong side of the Fissure. Fata also missing out on that raise. So Ferrari once again dodging another attempted gank from Cloud9.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an awkward bottom lane actually, in which, you can keep removing Shadow Strike with press the attack and you're like, you're going to run out of mana before me because I have CM Aura. Nope, I have a Coddle. So yeah, just keep spamming out spells and removing them and they're kind of doing nothing. But overall, of course, that is going to be favoring the dual lane safe lane of Cloud9 in that bottom lane. And looking over just the super early game stage here, it's a slight lead for the Dire. IG are getting a little bit more out of their lanes, both gold and experience wise, but I think most of that can, well, I'm not sure what that can be attributed to right now. Actually, when you look at the CS on both sides, it's obviously a very minor lead, doesn't play that big of a role, but C9 are looking good in mid. They're looking good at their safe lane, and both offlaners have, nothing. So
yeah, I feel like the Legion Commander is just getting a little bit more than our Phoenix, particularly because Overwhelming Odds is coming in and get a little bit of CS, but Lou, now he's going to be punished quite heavily, but maybe Eternal Envy didn't want to make that blink. Oh, dear. And now he just calmly goes back, cleans up a little bit of that cam. Now he's going to run right into Misery. No Tail still sitting on the side, and he does have the mana for another Fissure. Let's see if he can get it. 1 second left. Unfortunately, our Legion Commander going to scoot right on by. And that now score remains at a 0-0 5 minutes in.
Yeah, that kill, that blink might have actually cost him the kill, where if he just stays on the other side, he can run him down together with Misery, and of course you can just Chakra Magic onto Envy to make sure he doesn't run out of mana. So
Fata's already dropping low. The Frostbite's going to come in. Ferrari stuns him up, but he doesn't have another nuke. 1 more second. The Fissure comes in first. Now we get the SF before he may just die. The Fire Spirits is taking him away, but he's still alive. Meanwhile, Big Daddy No Tail chasing down Chuan, who does have another Fissure up in just 2 seconds. The second redemption, never mind. Misery says hello. Makes it even, but it's still favorable for IG, who managed to get the first blood on the SF and also got their Dragonite out of danger.
Yeah, that was such a close call as well. I think Fata had done about 90% or something of his Shadow Raise animation when he got hit by Breathe Fire. If he gets that out, I think they would have instantly killed the Dragonite. Maybe they would have traded kills, but that would have definitely been way better for Cloud9 than the situation they ended up in.
Top lane being pushed back. One of the big advantages of running yourself a Keeper of the Light is one of the supports that he can actually quite fearlessly go up to that off lane and push back. Now Ferrari is going to be zoned away. All right, that's one way to make sure he doesn't get a rune.
He's actually guarding it for now. They want Fata to get this invis. He's going to probably bottle No Tail twice here to get him nice and healthy on mana, which will be the case. So they have a new Fissure again. Hearing him press the attack. Luo consistently being pressured by Envy, so he's doing his job in the bot lane. I think Luo's 8 CS is good enough for Cloud9 that they've kept him down this much.
Yep.
But they need their Phoenix to find space, and that's the issue. Bone 7 is level 3, minute 6.5, which, it's not the worst on a Phoenix, but generally Cloud9 are so good at playing around Bone 7's Phoenix when he has a good game that you should really try to give it priority. I think this is his absolute best hero together with Clockwork to make sure he gets to play it.
But how do you do that as a Phoenix? I mean, you're a hero that can't actually really jungle. Do you just try and rotate into mid? I mean, you aren't particularly strong at ganking either.
Oh, they could have, wait a second here, mid lane, they're going to go on Ferrari. This could be a way of getting a drink. Breathe Fire actually going to miss, and there's the Sun Ray.
Yep, the last couple of right clicks, and Ferrari does end up falling. Excellent gank from Cloud9. Chuan comes in for the side. A 3-man Crystal Nova, but no real response, and the mana going right back to Fata as well. This is a combination, I don't think we mentioned yet, but the Keeper of the Light with the Shadow Fiend, being able to allow him to just spam raises constantly, will keep the SF probably way ahead of most of the cores on IG.
Yeah, can you make like an interesting cycling of Shadow Raises where you Chakra Magic first, and then that one raise will have short cooldowns? So
oh, yeah.
Do 4 raises in a row. That's a little, it's difficult.
Birdie in some serious trouble. He's going to drop the ultimate, just trying to clear Fada away, but now he's going to go for the TP Big Daddy. He doesn't actually have any mana to be able to throw out another Fissure nor the cooldown, but at least they get the deny in the tower. Now Chuan comes in from the side, trying to finish off Misery, but he doesn't have enough damage by himself, and it's actually going to be a bit of juke through the trees. And it looks like everyone will get away to safety here. A lot of rotations, but not a whole lot of kills.
Yeah, to answer your question about how they can maybe try to enable their Phoenix a bit more, one possibility is, of course, to stack the jungle and not let Phoenix farming it himself will take a lot of time, but you could obviously just help him with like Shaker, Coddle, or even the Shadow Fiend, just clear it out, and maybe you let Shadow Fiend take the gold, but Phoenix take the experience. I think that would be one way to bring him into the game. Alternatively, they could have maybe tried to rotate up the Shaker a little bit earlier in the offlane to give him a little more of a, just a safer start, but I think the plays No-Tail tried to go for would have been really high value if he just had a little better timing on the Fissures. So you can't really fault him for it, because if they catch Dragon Knight on the right, they would have maybe found 2 or 3 kills in that mid lane, and then it doesn't matter that bo3 would have had a bad start.
Yeah, another option possibly, like Fada can full-time jungle practically at this point, right? Especially with the Chakra Magic. Maybe our Phoenix can then adopt that middle lane for the experience to level 6, at least when the top lane isn't pushed in like it is now. Unfortunately, he is just about to crack up level 5, but we still have that Supernova that's missing on the side of Cloud9, and obviously that's going to be a critical part of their team fight.
And looking at the top lane, interesting to see that they give they're giving No-Tail farm priority. I think they really want these arcane boots, even though they have a Coddle. He can't be with the Shaker at all times, and you got to make sure this Shaker has more of an impact. He's found 1 kill in 9 minutes, which isn't amazing. It's not terrible either, but he's definitely the playmaker they're looking for, because when you look at their lineup, as far as ganking goes, he's like the only one, right? They have no real good setup. They have no really good slows. Keeper of the Light hasn't skilled Mana Leak, which I think is the right choice as well.
Dota is mega dead.
That's a 4-man smoke rotation to be able to catch him out. Meanwhile, Luo at that bottom lane does manage to get away once again with the press the attack, actually maxing that one out over overwhelming odds for now. I mean, it's got so much value against the Queen of Pain, and obviously has played a large factor in him being able to survive so long.
This is one of those smoke rotations, by the way, that are really good if IG can convert it into some sort of collateral. They find the gank in the Dragon Knight's lane. This is very classic. You kill the mid hero, he's off the map for about 25 seconds, and you start laying into the tower with the Elder Dragon form. But good defensive play from Cloud9. They reinforce the mid lane with especially the Keeper of the Light, but also Phoenix just going for a little bit of an Icarus dive, just intimidating IG to go back here. It's still a very successful gank for them regardless.
Yeah, but even then, like when they force the rotations out from Cloud9 to be able to defend that tower, that just means the bottom lane and the top lane are wide open. And we saw Luo really take advantage of that by aggressively pushing forward and clearing out a creep wave. Increasing his CS bit by bit. He's sitting at 29 and 8 and will probably start working towards, is it Blade Mail or Blink Dagger first for this game?
I think maybe you want to go for the... So you see a lot of the time LCs actually do get Blade Mail first, and I think in a lot of the cases it doesn't really make much sense, because, you know, to get the benefit of it, you kind of want to go in for the duel. You don't have to duel. If you can force them to drop stuns on you just to prevent the duel, they can obviously take damage for that. But in this game, when you have, if you have a Dazzle on backup with a Blink Dagger, we talked about it, it's a way of securing that the fight, you get a full duel off, unless Dazzle is out of position or gets really counterplayed by this Shaker. So I'd definitely say Blink would be my preferred choice to see on Luo in this particular case.
And we've got some very mobile cores on the side of Cloud9, both the Phoenix as well as the Queen of Pain. You want to be able to lock them down.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, of course, the Crystal Maiden, she's got excellent lockdown in the Frostbite for the Queen of Pain, not the Phoenix, but it's still always hard to get that positioning as this support.
Speaking of Crystal Maiden, Chuan is not finding much experience right now. He's up to level 5. He's gone for a 2-1-2 build here. Not sure what... he might have got the second point in Arcane Aura mainly for himself, just to self-sustain, because I don't think the other level benefit that much from it. But they need to find a way of making Chuan some sort of force in come minute 20, because right now he's really far behind. And Crystal Maiden is one of those special supports that I said the other day, is like 90% of games, it just seems like Crystal Maiden in the mid game is just like the weakest hero in the game. And then there's those 10% where she's just godlike. And we saw it from EG's PPD in the seeding matches. When you had a Glimmer Cape and a BKB, then you can just do work with this hero.
Yeah, and it gets, you're able to pick up those items because you're able to actually jungle as this support hero. That's another one one of the very unique things about Crystal Main. But instead, Chuan is choose to focus more on stacking up for this gyrocopter. You can see the Ancient stack going to work here. We now have the Helmet Dominator for burning, so Chuan won't really be needed for that anymore. But we do have burning picking up quite the large amount of net worth, over 1K ahead of the SF. And that's huge, right? Because SF is usually the one farthest ahead in net worth by this point.
Absolutely. That's one of the heroes you generally, I think, maybe relative to its pick rate, it might be the hero that's on top of the net worth chart the most. It's very easy to stack for. He's very effective at farming the stacks and pushing out lanes at the same time. So, yeah, being ahead on the gyro here is definitely a big deal for IGS. Here comes the push a little bit from Cloud9. They do have their mech on Fata, and Blinding Light as well as the Recall are available, but they're all 5 down there, so Recall not really going to provide much.
They were really hoping to be able to get a gank on Luo, I think, but unfortunately that was not successful, and it seems like they may not have the strength to take this tier 1 tower because they don't want to give up this middle tower. They do manage to get the last right click there. That was actually the poison from Ferrari's Dragonite that managed to get the last hit on the towers. So very fortunate in that regard, and they still keep their offlane tower alive.
What is this? That's a first for me.
Wow, that is super interesting.
Oh, when you have the Maiden Aura, maybe you can pull it off, because this item is actually pretty expensive to use. It's 130 mana cost on a 16-second cooldown, and Dragonite is a special pickup, but there's so much magic damage on Cloud9's lineup. I think it's a really creative choice here from Ferrari, generally picked up by supports, but this is the kind of game where you can see it working on core Dragonite.
Yeah, I mean, the only physical damage that's going to come out is from the SF, and he's still primarily magic damage at this point in time. Maybe later on after the BKB, and perhaps even a third item after that, we could see a lot of physical damage coming out from our SF. But even then, obviously our Dragonite won't care that much because he's got almost maxed out Dragon Blood now.
He is really tanky. As long as, like, the challenge for Cloud9 is going to be, if they want to kill Ferrari in the front lanes, they have to...
This is a bit of a bait, though. They managed to catch Eternal Envy, but look at the number of heroes behind him. Luo is in a bad position here. He's going to need that Shell Grave, but unfortunately our Dazzle, as well as our Crystal Maiden, have already completely abandoned Luo. They tried to go for the gank. There was an obvious bait there from Cloud9, and the supports go ahead and say, cut their losses. They're not going to try and fight that one. Of course, this means that their tier 1 tower bottom lane will end up going down finally.
Going to be claimed by Fata, so he might be maybe closing it on burning. He's currently 900 behind. It was more than 1,000 last time you checked, I believe, so catching up a little bit. But just looking at the relative strength of these heroes, like how much they do with the net worth, I think most of the time, if you compare, like, let's say a 10K up lane good fissure on Ferrari, is there a hole?
bo3's actually trying to block it out a little bit. There goes that Glimmer Cape Ferrari. They don't have any counter vision. He will be able to get some distance. Eternal Envy still sees him, managed to pop off the ult, and Ferrari is going to be dropping here. There's no saving him. Cloud9 up 4-2. And it seems that Glimmer Cape does not pay off, at least this time for the Dragonite. Cindering, you want to theory craft a little bit why he chooses the Glimmer Cape at this point, rather than, say, the early BKB that is usually so much value for a DK?
I think he's looking for a little bit of a hybrid solution here where he can both use it defensively but also find a means of engaging. If he goes for the flat out, just the BKB, Cloud9 can just hold him at bay, I think. They can really push out the waves. I think if you look at IG, they're looking for multiple ways of engaging fights so that they can take the fight on their terms, and this is obviously a very good way of doing it. And also, if you look over Cloud9's lineup, they have both of their cores are really magic damage dependent in the early mid game. So in theory, it's really good. But that kind of situation, you know, it doesn't really matter what item you have if you get 3-on-1 like that minute 15. So the Glimmer Cape delayed the inevitable a bit. So at least that's something.
Right. So basically you're saying that
it can. So he could turn it into a Shadow Blade later.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, right? Because I was just about to say the two most popular items on Dragonite, one being the Shadow Blade and two being the BKB. This is sort of a poor man's version of both, right? You get the initiation factor of the invisibility. Get the magic armor increase, which is, you know, obviously not as good as BKB, but it does give you something at the very least versus all this magic damage.
He could even consider disassembling this and going for the whole efficiency or getting the most out of both items where he gets a Shadow Blade and a pipe, but I don't know if you want to go pipe in this game, even though on paper you look at Cloud9's line, you're like, wow, AoE spell damage block is incredible. You're still going to be tanking so many, like the slow from Phoenix, the blind from Coddle, the Fissure. So it's great if you can negate damage, but can you actually deal?
So Cloud9 are staying very grouped up right now. They have the Glimmer Cape to deal with from the Dragonite, which is potential initiation. Obviously, the biggest factor being our Blink Dagger from the Legion Commander. This does leave opportunities, though, for IG to simply out-farm Cloud9 because they've already been kind of in that position where, you know, they got ganked 3-man at top. There was also the counter gank at bottom where they baited out the Queen of Pain. It seems like IG are like, okay, Cloud9 are fully grouped up. Now all we have to do is just split up and out-farm them, right?
Yeah, I can see that. And the problem with that Cloud9 will be facing is what's the win condition? When are they able to take tier 2s and go high ground against this IG lineup? As we might see a fight breaking out in the bottom lane here. Luo running in.
This is going to be a big opportunity for either side. Bo3 will be able to get off a really good supernova if he wants to, but it's just not necessary. IG have already lost the Legion Commander, and once again, the two supports are going to try and abandon ship. Unfortunately, Chuan, this time he will be caught. He's going to go for a TP out, but immediately Cloud9 do see him and give him the right click. 6-2 now to the favor of Cloud9. That net worth, though, tells a slightly different story. IG are a bit ahead in both gold and experience for now.
Still a decent swing up for Cloud9, closing in on a 0 gold game, I think.
There's that efficiency, by the way. We have Shadowblade and the casual cloak for Ferrari.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Well, he didn't get that much out of the Glimmer Cape, I guess, but it looked cool. He got some style points for that. That's something, right?
Yeah, if anything, it may have baited him into a bad position at top, but all is well. IG are still not out of this, that's for sure. Cloud9 are going to be able to take a tier 2 tower at the bottom lane, it seems, as IG do not have a glyph, nor are they positioned to be able to defend. Again, it looks like they are just willing to give up a certain amount of map control and towers to Cloud9 in exchange for out-farming them by split-pushing the lanes.
Yeah, I'm wondering if IG could have potentially held this tower. I was about to talk about how when it comes to tier 2s and pushing the base, how strong will Cloud9 really be? They don't have the Ags on Coddle, which they're obviously working on and will make a huge difference for their base pushing capabilities. But until that point, you're trying to push into a Dragon Knight who can fairly easily go to the front and use Breathe Fire and maybe even threaten you with a Dragon Form Dragon Tail. You have overwhelming odds, and you have the Flak Cannon as well as Call Down. So between IG's heroes, I think they had enough wave clear, but at that point in time, they were probably just too much out and didn't really want to commit. And if they want to take the farming path, that's fine, as Misery's going to get caught out here. I don't think he's going to die, actually.
Yeah, in fact, with the blinding light, it's just impossible for the Dragon Knight to finish him off, so he just Shadow Blades away, sneaks in that bounty rune right underneath Fada's nose. It looks like Cloud9 now going to set up for that middle tier 1 tower. At what point does IG go for the defense? I mean, they already have a BKB and a decent amount of gold on Burning. Do they just continue to feed away these towers in exchange for that next set of items?
I think this is a tower they can hold. It looks like Cloud9 are aware that this is a little bit risky, and the reason this is a difficult push for them is that the number of initiation angles that IG can come from and the relatively limited information they're getting out of the map vision right now could put them under some pressure in that mid lane, and they choose to play it safe, which I think overall is just fine as long as they keep their farming up. You see Cloud9 have more or less caught up on gold. They're still a bit behind in experience, but these numbers aren't that important. It's way more about who gets the key items going their way for initiation. And No Tail he's halfway to Blink Dagger. They've the Coddle is almost 2/3 to his Ags. I think those are the two key items to definitely look out for, in of course addition to Phoenix's level 11 and 16. So Cloud9 have got some really good things coming up for them in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Can we just go back and mention, I'm not sure if you said it, but Faith actually has a mech. Now, how did he farm this up so quickly to have a mech that was picked up, I think, around 18 minutes? Did he just do a really good job of last hitting when he was pulling? I mean, this is a pretty insane amount of farm for a Dazzle. I mean, he's at a bone 7 right now when it comes to net worth.
I didn't pay too much attention to it. I think he did quite a bit of wave pushing just with Shadow Wave a couple of times, and then of course if it comes to jungling, he is pretty effective at it. But yeah, I agree. It's pretty surprising how much Faith has got, especially when you look over how IG play usually with their supports. They often stack Faith really hard. Yeah. But in this game, they do believe he plays a key role, and I like the idea of farming the Dazzle over CM to an extent, which is if they don't think CM can reach the core items we talked about earlier, which of course is the Glimmer Cape and especially BKB, if they feel like that's unrealistic, the net worth is just going to be so much more valuable on the Dazzle.
Ferrari still pushing that top lane in as much as possible. Looks like he, well, I'm presuming it's a BKB because I don't see too much benefit out of Silver's Edge this game. Obviously, the break mechanic isn't going to be too valuable in this matchup, but we still see Dragonite still go for it just because it's such an efficient item for a Dragonite. He gets a lot of value out of the Sage, most obviously.
Tier break Aftershock?
Possibly. Initiation. There goes the BKB. Burning around trying to kill the egg, but he now actually has to just try and TP out. He does get away before the right clicks are there, but our poor Dragonite, meanwhile, bottom lane, Big Daddy No Tail gets off the Echo Slam ahead of Luo, who's trying to finish him off. Just needs one more right click. Oh, no, it's not actually enough damage. The poison is taking him down. Looks like he will go down eventually, but not before he gets off some sort of vengeance with the Fisher. Luo, with the TP out, will be successful, and same goes to our Dazzle. IG playing that quite well. They didn't get the added dual damage, but at the very least, they still got the pick off, forced rotations, and didn't lose anybody at bottom.
It's still been a game in which I think Cloud9 have read them really well. Like every time there's an aggressive play coming out from IG, Cloud9 are ready on the defense. And like you said, sure, this bottom kill does happen, but it almost worked out in C9's favor as well. Shaker barely dying there. They could have maybe found even 1 or 2 counter kills. So still playing the game very, very smartly here. And if they keep this up, I think, yeah, we're back to 0 gold, right? So,
Dyer's top tower is under attack.
Looking pretty solid for them.
It is indeed. We've got Burning, who's got, I was just about to ask you, is this a Scotty first, essentially, after BKB? And sure enough, he's got the double ultimate orb. So he's kind of thinking all in on late game. And it feels like that's what IG's whole entire plan is, right? I mean, they're staying away from Cloud9. They're split pushing. They basically want to draw the game out as much as possible via basically not fighting Cloud9. If you get into bad team fights, that's obviously going to speed up Cloud9's advantage, and they'll be able to push high ground much earlier.
I'm not completely sure about this come late game. If Cloud9 continue to stay even. So when we talked about it earlier in the game, I'm like, okay, IG, they have Weave, which we didn't talk about either, and plays a very big role a lot of the time in late game. So with that in mind, I still think IG will be okay, let's say minute 40 and onward if they have even farm. So Cloud9 might feel some sort of pressure on them to get the job done soon. But overall, they're looking probably at the kill score. They know it's 7-3. They've taken 4 towers. They've only lost 2 themselves, and they're finding key items that they need. This one is really big. I cannot express enough how good this Axe upgrade is. I think if you put me on the spot and you said pick the best Aghanims upgrade in the game, this would be it for me.
Wow.
I think Coddle's Axe is absolutely ridiculously good. 1800 AoE vision at daytime. His Illuminate is a 500 heal all bottom lane. Oh, Luo was thinking about it.
He does get a Fisher for his troubles, but maybe we'll be able to back out just fine.
It's a hard one. Tiny's Axe is pretty good.
I was about to say, there's a lot of like Aghanims that are essential for their heroes, and you're saying that the Axe pickup of our Keeper of the Light is better than all of those. And I can't really argue for it. This game, I mean, it's going to be so good just because we're dealing with on a split push, first of all. And then you right away, Blinding Light is incredibly good versus most of these heroes, most notably the Legion Commander, who does look like she's going to be going for a BKB next. Now, this could be the first real sign of aggression from IG. Most of the time, they've been split pushing, looking for pickoffs, and trying to take those towers, but this will be really the first time that IG try and push uphill, but Fada's in the perfect spot to be able to see that one. Fada almost popped that full ultimate there. He did use the BKB, which is still a bit of a win for IG if they manage to force this fight anyway. Bone7 dropping a little bit of fire there. Ferrari bumping forward, but the Blinding Light to push him back, as well as a Fisher. Now Eternal Envy actually jumps forward quite aggressively here. They are going to be able to get a really good Gyrocopter ultimate on the side. The egg goes off, Burning turns and trying to dress it. Will be able to get it in time. Eternal Envy on the right side. He gets stolen up. The egg explodes, but Luo's taking out Queen of Pain, so the egg doesn't matter. IG have won the fight right outside of the Roshan pit. You couldn't ask for a better situation for you to take Roshan.
I'm actually really surprised Cloud9 chose to go for that. They're doing a pretty good job at harassing this Roche pit right now. And no Illuminate coming in here. But they have the sustain. They have earned charges, bottles, sticks, and of course press the attack. But, all right, they willingly went in there with... They think they might have an advantage with
Luo! He gets Echo Slammed immediately. There goes the ultimate, stunned up Misery. They're going to now try and chase down No Tail as well. Luo, he doesn't have a duel for another 10 seconds, so we won't be able to stop No Tail. just yet, but it doesn't look like it matters. Ferrari on the other side gets the stun, and 2 kills turned into another 2 as they attempt to do Roshan. And Cloud9 just not letting that one go, end up feeding away a more. Don't stop Roshan at all, as Burning manages to take the Aegis solo now.
They basically, so what happened here is that they went into the area outside the pit. Like, they ran into the river with no Battlefield BKB, because he used it before when they thought the engage was coming. And they ran into Call Down, they ran into a Legion Commander who would definitely be able to find a Blink Duel. And their heroes are not good for this kind of fight unless they set it up themselves first, so they can get the AoE combo. By the way, they already used Icarus Dive, I think, on Bone7 as well. So his Supernova was in a pretty awkward position all the way to the bottom left. Just, considering how well Cloud9 played the early game, that one's just a one-off fight. That was not good.
Yeah, it felt like Eternal Envy made the call there with its aggressive blink forward, that since they blocked off the Dragonite, they can go for that pick-off. And maybe he just thought there wasn't as many of the IG members as there actually was, because Ferrari, the big tanky Dragonite himself with that casual cloak, which is now gone, by the way. He now has adopted the stronger Glimmer Cape with a BKB, and he has the full 10 charges available to him. Where do you go after this point? I mean, again, we go back to, is there enough value in Silver's Edge without the break being utilized for you to be able to grab it, or do you go for something else entirely? Oh no, Envy! That was greedy, and he pays for it big time. Luo snags a duel, and this time it is a win, our second win of the game.
I don't think Silver Edge is worth it here for Ferrari, like you said. There's not enough value in break, I believe. What can he break? He can break Aftershock. He can break, I guess, both Necromastery and Presence of the Dark Lord. Do you break both of those? I think you don't break auras, right? You break.
Yeah, you don't break Necromastery. You don't break Necromastery, I believe, because
that doesn't break either.
Yeah, because essentially the very few abilities, but it's basically the abilities that are completely essential to the hero. I could be wrong, but
break is still really counterintuitive.
Yeah. So Cuirass most likely.
You don't break.
That's one of the most popular items for DK.
I definitely think AC is good. They have great synergy with it with their heroes. They already have the plus armor and the minus armor from Weave. They have a great spread damage carry in Burning's Gyrocopter, and of course they will be able to win duels even faster with Luo. So I think AC is just a no-brainer here. After that, however, the question is, does he want to go for something like an MKB, so even when his BKB is out, he can still fight the Blinding Light?
Right.
Does he consider a Daedalus just to hit hard, or maybe even a Mjolnir to put on the LC, which is actually a really devastating combo? You can't really stop her in the duel from getting those procs off, and maybe they could make some interesting synergistic plays with that.
Yeah, particularly with the Shallow Grave, which, as you mentioned earlier, means that you guarantee to get that full duel off, which is, all that time where your ally is hitting that Legion Commander and forcing all those static charge procs. Now, Burning is aggressively, again, pushing in these tier 2 towers. You see him at bottom, he's actually just tanking up the tower entirely, not really fearing Cloud9 whatsoever. And you can see why. Luo's sitting on the side there, ready to go with the press the attack. So even if they do get some sort of disable on Burning, there'll be a press the attack, plus he's got Aegis. It's unlikely Cloud9 are going to fight into that anyway.
IG, however, are not interested in going high ground. This is a really difficult high ground game. There's Fissure, Echo Slam, Blinding Light, Illuminate, Phoenix is annoying, raises Sonic Wave with Ags upgrade for Envy, which, by the way, we haven't really talked about his Ags, I believe. I feel like most of the time you get this first on Quab, it's pretty underwhelming. It's great to have a low cooldown ultimate like that, but how much value has he really got out of it? Have you seen like multiple fights in a row? All right, that's his value right there. Decent, it's not great.
Yeah.
I would like to see him get something else in this game.
It does give you quite a bit of stats. The other builds would obviously be the Orchid, but do you really see a whole lot of value in the Orchid, or do you have a different item entirely that you would have liked to see our Queen of Pain go?
That's the question. It's not really the best co-op game in general, I guess, which IG, they knew they were counter-picking that because it was the second pick together with Shadow Fiend from Cloud9. Now that you put me on the spot, I still don't think it was the best choice, but not the best Orchid game either, I should point out.
Yeah.
Maybe you would have thought about even something like going in Necro 3, I think could have been pretty cool in this game. Mana burning some of IG's key heroes, especially Dragon Knight early on before he gets BKB. He's completely useless without mana, that hero, more or less.
Right.
And it's great against Jara's Flat Cannon, he kills himself on the book, etc., etc. So I think that could have been a cool itemization from Envy.
But ultimately, what you're saying is it's just not really a good Queen of Pain game. Eternal Envy is going to have a hard time pretty much no matter what until we maybe get into very late game where we've got the Refresher and Scythe of Ice that comes in.
In order for it to be a good Queen of Pain game, they need catch. And that's what their lineup doesn't have. Their catch is Fissure, and it hasn't been good enough so far because No-Tail's had to do it on his own.
Right.
Phoenix is not a great catch either. Sure, you can Icarus dive and it's a little bit of a slow, but how do you really force the enemy team to engage into you in a cluster so that you can get your really big combo out of the Queen of Pain? We just haven't really seen Cloud9 being able to force that.
So with the Earthshaker, now this is a notable pickup, obviously. He's got a Blink Dagger. That was obviously a large majority of the game. We didn't have that on No-Tail, so hopefully this will be able to provide some opportunities for Cloud9. Misery, what's he got? He's got himself a gem combined with that Aghanim Scepter, obviously, an XC to be able to counterward everything. We also have a Shiva's now picked up by our Phoenix. Eternal Envy, is he going the right-click build? I mean, with this, I've seen this play mail, and I even saw him pick up the Shiva's recipe at one point, and then I believe he immediately sold it because the communication was there from Bone7. No, I'm going Shiva's. So do we go AC and we just try and go right-click build on our Queen of Pain since it seems like this will go late?
Is there anything great to get out of Lotus here? You can't purge Dragon Knight stun because it's a hard disable.
Right.
You can purge Frostbite, I guess, right? I think you can. It's not that great, and I don't know. They're going to jump Ferrari really hard here. He is done. Well cooked by the Phoenix and the combo.
Yes, he is. IG lose their Dragon Knight and what should be perhaps their tier 2 tower as well, as Burning is going to be taking a bit of damage from Bone7. Looks like he was just trying to peek around behind that tier 2 tower, see who was where. Ooh, that butterfly picked up from Burning, though. He has a swarm of items, and maybe IG, they have the strength to be able to defend this one, it seems. Cloud9 seeing the post-up of IG heroes in the tier 2 tower, the top lane already being dropped low. They immediately rotate up there to see if they can still get a tier 2 tower, but the TPs to follow mean that Cloud9 don't actually get any objectives out of that Dragon Knight pickoff, which was so valuable.
At the very least, they force out some sort of rotation and they put pressure, but, in most cases, you would definitely expect at least to be able to get one tier 2 there, but I think they made the right call not going for this tower, not knowing whether Dragon Knight has buyback. If they initiate and dive deep on this tier 2, that could have been a disaster. Sure. It's very difficult for them to kill Burning. As I say that, they might actually try for it now. They're just harassing, forcing a rotation once again, but Luo's there. And of course, engaging on Burning is hard, because as I mentioned earlier, the only real engage they have is Fissure, or maybe the whole combo from Shaker. They can just remove one of the stuns with press the attack and he get BKB.
Feels like Cloud9, the plan there was to really try and force out a BKB charge from the Gyrocopter, but Burning obviously having really good read. he doesn't need to plop that BKB because he's got the Legion Commander sitting right behind him ready to go with the press the attack, so he can afford to hold on to the BKB a lot later than most other Gyrocopters, both because of press the attack, but also just because of the large amount of farm he's got. Between Scotty and Butterfly, he's a damn hard hero to kill at this point.
And he also knows he has the back of a Dazzle, so there's so much protection. Dazzle, by the way, with Greaves and Medallion. It is so much defense that he can put up for IG, both in terms of course, the passive of Guardian Greaves when heroes drop low, the Medallion being able to be used defensively, and I think we're looking at Faith going for the Solar Crest build-up here, where, if he can put that on the Gyro who already has a Butterfly, Cloud9 have really, really hard. I don't think they can kill Burning, actually. It's almost impossible to imagine. Shadow Fiend not really having an MKB yet, and should he get it, does he still hit hard enough?
I mean, I think that's a good idea, personally.
Gyro still has 26 armor before Weave, right?
What you get? Weave coming in, you got some additional heals, the Mech, Guardian Greaves. You also have the increased armor once you drop low, but below 20% with Guardian Greaves as well. I mean, it's an insane amount of defense. I do also want to point out that this potentially defensive Solar Crest play put on the Gyrocopter is going to be the stacked evasion, which is a change up.
They found Luo.
Yes, they did. Scotty to slow him down, and Luo is going to be going down the double damage of Fada. Just too great. And this time around, Cloud9, when they find a pickoff, they make damn sure they're going to be able to take that tier 2 tower. So it goes down, but look what IG are doing in return. They've already pretty much taken Roshan. They're going to have to TP back to defend tier 3, but I can't imagine Cloud9
doesn't have one. He has to run the whole way, but I still think they're going to repel Cloud9. They're going to be intimidated. They don't know Dragon Knight does not have a port, and I would say, all in all, this trade favors IG. Sure, you lose a tower and you lose a core, but it's your position 3. Cloud9 invested a lot into that kill, and you get the Roshan, which, again, just puts you ahead in the game where Cloud9 really don't want to fight you for 5 minutes, and you just farm if you want. There is the AC build-up, by the way, for Envy, as we were talking about. Couldn't really go for Shivas because they have it on Feast. Well, he could, but he doesn't want to. So is that or Lotus? And I don't think Lotus would have been good in this game.
So how do you go for a right-click build on Queen of Pain? Is Scythe of Ice your next item? Because similar to Furion, it just gives you a lot of good damage via stats.
I think Scythe is probably the best choice. It's either Scythe or it's Refresher, but I don't think he has the mana pool for Refresher without the Shivas. So that's the choice he has made now that he probably has to accept. Even if he wants the Refresher, he probably needs, okay, what's the combo cost? It's 1,000 just for the spells, and then 375 for the Refresher, so already then he would be out of mana at this point. But if he levels up the Refresher, could be a possibility, maybe, but he needs to play perfectly in that case. So I would say Scythe, solid choice overall.
Burning. No fear whatsoever. He's just taking that tier 2 casually, even with backdoor protection. Doesn't really care. He knows he still has that Aegis, and Cloud9 are very unlikely. I mean, even as he takes a big burst of damage there, he knows press the attack, Aegis, Shallow Grave. Again, we've listed it time and time again. He's got many abilities. Well, that's one way to get some movement around with Frostbite on you. Bone7 uses the Sun Ray to get away from the Crystal Maiden.
And they did claim the tier 2 at no cost, as it looks. Queen of Pain will finish the AC now for Envy. I'm wondering if Scythe is his choice. I think it's good, but at the same time, it might not do enough. Do they have like any sort of really good amplification item they could go for that could set them up for more damage? I do believe that is the problem they're going to run into, that Scythe is great for the control. Of course, the int from it is decent for damage build-up, but I don't know if it's enough. I'm wondering if he wants to think of something like a Deso, or maybe even a Daedalus without BKB, which is difficult, but might just be necessary to kill Burning.
Yeah, you may just have to go for sort of a all glass cannon, like all offense sort of build, just to be able to take down the gyrocopter, simply because our SF doesn't have enough farm, right? Like he is just now trying to get into his second big late game item behind the Scotty, and that doesn't feel like it's going to be enough against a gyrocopter who's basically 6-slotted. Like he still has that Aegis, but once it's gone, I'm sure he's going to have enough farm to think about his basic last item.
I think he's more like 7-slotted with all these defensive items his team has for him as well. It's not even, he has a net worth of 25,000, but when you look at all the stuff they can put on him from their allies, this is a 30k carry you're looking at right here. 30k MMR.
And that Aegis is still up for another 2 minutes. Cloud9 has to play. They have to go in there. Sure enough, there goes the Echo Slam. They're going to try and burn this Aegis as soon as possible. Burning just doesn't care. He pops the BKB, pops the Satanic, and now he's healing back up to full with Fonacon as well. The kill score evens up, but IG are perfectly set to just win the whole entire game with this push.
There's going to have to be 2 buybacks coming out from Cloud9. I don't think they can hold either of them. They can try to hold Shaker for 30, but they're going to need the Fisher to put any sort of pressure out the fight. And there we go. There's the buyback from Notail. They want to conceal the one from Fata being available and maybe get a fight, but they haven't even scratched Burning, and they used a lot of key abilities. This is just over. They can't touch him.
Yeah, they really can. Eternal Evi's going to be stunned up now by Ferrari with the Blink Dagger, trying to hold him still. Lowell comes in and will be able to get the right clicks necessary. Now an egg laid out. They're going to try and fight around that one desperately, but the egg can't afford to go down. It looks like Burning is not going to get it. The egg stuns them both, and now Burning falls.
Right.
This is going to be perfect. They're going to kill Burning a secondary time here. He does not have the BKB, easily controlled, and Cloud9, just like that, are back in the game.
I really did not think they would be able to pull that off. What a defense. It did cost them quite a lot, of course, with the double buybacks, but I would have called that as game right there. The Gyro had an Aegis, was in a really good position, but Envy gets a super good Sonic Wave there. They have great follow-up damage, and of course, in extended fights like that, during daytime, Keeper of the Light doing a lot of work with the Illuminate.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to give a shout out to Bone7 for that excellent position of the Supernova right in front of the
the Supernova, of course, was fantastic.
Yeah, right in front of the gyrocopter, but he knew, he's like, okay, we've already taken out enough of those heroes. I'm going to be able to survive. It's a level 3 Supernova. We're good. And now Cloud9 are going to be able to push back out and recoup a lot of that gold that they lost in the process of defending their base. They used a lot of buybacks there, but they're going to be able to take the tier 2 middle lane, and they're hoping to be able to force a buyback, it looks like, on Burning.
30 seconds. There's the aggressive weave. I think IG can actually hold this without burning. And Cloud9 really want to try to force it. Let's see if they can manage. It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, just the spam out of abilities.
Oh, that's a pretty good mono leak out of misery onto Chuan. And not deciding to dive him, though.
Cloud9, this is basically their attempt to get as much damage on the tier 3 tower with this next creep wave, or maybe they don't even chance it. The gyrocopter's up in 5 seconds. They decide against it. There's just too much catch from IG, particularly with the duel, but also the Blink Dagger pickup on Dragon Knight. Now, this is an item that we've seen many times where you go for the Shadow Blade and BKB, but this is the one a few times you see a rather late Blink Dagger. It's just because it has so much value with the instant long duration stun of Dragon Tail.
And he's actually going to go for a Moon Shard in addition to that. That is not what I was expecting out of Ferrari. I think, I think personally both AC and Mjolnir would have been stronger choices all in all. The reason he doesn't get the AC is that they want to put that in Luo, which is fine. Of course, giving that TLC.
Sure.
But I think the Mjolnir could have been nicer than the Moon Shard, because it's great to get a lot of attack speed like that, but it doesn't hit that hard, so you don't really care so much. Whereas the Mjolnir actually puts quite a bit of pressure out, and of course has the static charge being available to be put on Luo, who now gets the AC up. Want to ask you, did bo3 did he have the axe when they defended the base bottom, or did he grab it after that fight?
No, I believe he grabbed it afterwards, so we could potentially see some big saves coming out from bo3.
And now an MKB on Fox as well. This is going to make it a lot easier for them to deal with a gyro. It is still difficult, but they got a couple of key items here that could give them the edge they need. But I think they need to fight at daytime, and night is coming very soon.
Sinner, we haven't seen a whole lot of Magnum's Phoenix play. It's a very unique mechanic that can actually backfire quite easily, right? If you supernova your ally and you just lose the egg instantly, it's obviously a huge backfire. What does bo3 need to do? What's the ideal situation? Who does he save, and what time are we really looking at for bo3 to try and make that save?
He needs to do it after Blinding Light. Unless if all of IG have BKBs ready to use, they can actually pop them post-blind and just run the egg.
Right.
If he hits a couple of Fire Spears, of course, it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, it's all about outlasting BKBs, actually, for Cloud9, if you look at it. They want to bait the BKBs. If they manage and they can then supernova, they're in a really, really good position. Because even if IG try to go for the egg, if their BKBs are out, you know you've got the blind, you know you've got the Fissure from Shaker and some more follow-up. And maybe there's, of course, the Shiva's aura and maybe a couple of Fire Spirits. So that's the ideal situation, which is a pretty tall order. Because when you look at the fight so far, IG don't have to use their BKBs that early most of the time.
Yeah, I'm just smiling because I love this pickup from bo3, coupling the Ags upgrade of the Supernova now with the Blink Dagger, as if like Icarus Dive is not going to be enough of a gap closer to be able to save his allies. He wants that instant blink forward and potential save, and also after the Icarus Dive goes off, it can be a quick escape as well.
It's a really nice item on Phoenix in some games. I think it's cool here as well. But, of course, he needs to be able to cast it. So if he's in the middle of the fight in the first place, you can reset your blink by finishing your supernova, but the idea of it is to set up the supernova. Yeah. So that's not really that useful. But maybe you can get a cute play with it at one point where maybe they bait Envy or something like that, and he saves him last second.
Burning. MKB is his last item here to a boot to travel, obviously replacing the phase boot, so you have, you don't want to be making the Cloud9 play, you want to have a TP back, but the TP scroll then being replaced by an MKB.
Very subtle. Shots fired. Just very subtle. But yes,
absolutely. Thank you, Cinder. Thank you for confirming that for me. All right. 45 minutes in, a tense game indeed. We haven't really seen a whole lot of kills in this game. A lot of back and forth subtle rotations. IG trying to prolong the game, but at a certain point now the impetus is really on them to try and end it, right? Because they're getting a gyrocopter who pretty much maxed out, can't really get too many items after this. They kind of want to end the game before Cloud9 can start playing catch-up on some of their cores. 5-man smoke after that. Roshan take the Aegis is in their hands as well as the cheese, but Cloud9 obviously know what's probably coming here. They've got to smoke up their own. They're hoping to be able to get an initiation, perhaps.
This fight can actually decide the game, because only one hero on the Radiant has buyback, and only 2 heroes on the Dire. We're looking at Coddle and CM, as well as the Gyro of Burning, who has Aegis. So he's got 3 lives right now. Cutting through 2 will be hard. The 3rd one will probably be too much for Cloud9. He's grabbed his Boots of Travel as well, so he could join them at bottom.
Man, that could have been such a big... Like, Burning backing up there through the middle lane, and the rest of his team pushing forward. Like, he was essentially... He could have been completely caught out, and at the very least, Cloud9 could have picked off that Aegis, but it would have been such a risky play if they attempted something like that, because obviously they had no idea where the rest of IG went. So Burning does skate away back to his base and defends the incoming waves, while the rest of IG are pushing out bottom lane, as well as taking over the enemy jungle.
It's basically a jungle trade right now, but if you look at the waves, it's favoring IG. They're getting more push out of it. The bottom lane is pressuring while they're holding top. Cloud9 have no one to defend bottom. They could just port down someone and start clearing, and they can, of course, just recall him back. I think that is the play right now. So just send Envy down there with a Sonic Wave, get rid of those creeps, and get back into the action mid. Or you might just be forced to hold entirely with your full team, as it looks like IG are planning to end the game right now.
IG poking uphill, the Gyrocopter ready to make that TP in. The tier 3 is already down. Raxes are being exposed, and Cloud9 have to be able to defend here. Looks like IG are not going to try and push uphill with this one, but probably just waiting for some sort of pick-off opportunity with their double blinks. Right?
I think it's go time now.
You think so? When
you port Burning down, it's go.
Yeah, so Burning's going to be the first one. The front lines here, Cloud9 have to deal with him first, and he's got Butterfly, he's got the Satanic, BKB, the upgrade.
That Blink Envy, that is really, really easy.
Yeah, looks like he's just wanting to try and blow his buyback here, but Fada's been jumped in the background. Ferrari wants to kill him first, and it looks like Burning completely agrees. The duel goes on an Eternal Envy, he's down, instant buyback. Fada is in some trouble, still being slowed down by Ferrari. Echo Slam on board the course. Now with the Fisher potentially going out, no tail blocks in Burning, but he just doesn't see the carry. Fights away with the Satanic. He's keeping himself alive through all of this. He will go down eventually, but it's just the Aegis. Can they still turn this one? IG ready for the reinitiation. They're going to come in and try and save Burning. Behind enemy lines, Ferrari the first one forward. It's the Chief. Gets the stun on the Fada. Now Burning trying to help him out. The SF is dropping low. He does manage to get away. The Ingress, there it is. The egg saved the Aghanims, but they're going to try and kill the egg. It's about to drop. The stun's going to go off, and they did it. They saved Fada. They kick the stun. The IG are all low. This could be a total wipe. Burning fighting in the middle of everyone against 3, but the constant hits of Vader are just too much to handle. It's only Luo to survive as he blinks himself away. He claims the melee ranks as his bounty, but it's a big win for Cloud9.
That is such a big supernova to come out from Bone7. This is the exact scenario they want to set up. The BKB from IG are all used. They get the Blink supernova to save Fata, and they have all their abilities remaining. They have the Echo Slime, I believe, or maybe he might have used the Echo Slime, but apart from that, just the lower cooldown abilities they have are really powerful. Fissure, Illuminate in that kind of fight, hitting 4 or 5 heroes, maybe even healing a couple, and IG just ran out of steam toward the end of that. They do, however, claim the melee barracks and force a buyback on the Queen of Pain, so I think IG are still pretty satisfied with that exchange, but a great hold again.
Yeah, it all just comes down to these buybacks that are going to be forced. How many buybacks are IG going to be forced to use here? And then the next 5 minutes, are they going to be picked off and essentially maybe even lose the whole entire game based on the fact that they don't have that extra life anymore? They're going to start out with this tier 3 tower bottom lane. It is the lowest. The rest of IG, well, you have the Crystal Maiden up now. Dragonite in 10 seconds. It feels like it might only be the Gyrocopter who's forced into a buyback if Cloud9 forced this one. Luo is taking a bit of damage there as Cloud9 now focused on the melee racks at bottom, but here comes the initiation. Chuan moving forward. Misery's already dead, and the rest of Cloud9 are just looking to escape, but Bone7's not going to get out either. 2 picked off, maybe a 3rd. Fada forced into the BKB, does not have a TP out, and Chuan's just going to be able to run right there with him. Gets the frostbite, and now he's just kiting around while the rest of his team is looking to be able to catch Fada. Oh, they have the buyback on Misery. Can he actually get a recall here? Fada's going to be able to get off the ultimate. Hits on 3 or 4, but it's too late. He's already surrounded. There's no way there's a recall play. And sure enough, IG strike back hard, taking away the SF. He's down for 100 seconds, but he does have that buyback.
Yeah, the only buyback IG expend there is that of the Gyro, so they need to be careful with Burning's positioning in the next fight. Should he die on this push, he's out for 2 whole minutes. And Cloud9, they do have buyback on the 2 dead heroes currently, Fata as well as Bone. So this could be another hold, and you know, if you're IG right now, it's very hard not to push this. But I think after the first 5, I think they have to go back now. And they might still go. And this could be a really big mistake if it goes wrong.
Yeah.
There's
not much to gain out of this because there's only range fractions left. The damage is already done, essentially, from IG. And it looks like they agree. They're going to back themselves up. If they win the fight, obviously, if they win the fight that close to the base, they just end it right there. But being that far forward and the risk that is involved, all they're really going to be able to plink away is at those range fraxes, and obviously the melee are so much more important. So IG don't even try for that one. Instead, backing themselves away. There's the Moon Shard from Ferrari. He's got another 2.5k gold. Luo with the Assault Cuirass, BKB, Blink Dagger, another 3.3. So they've got some new items coming in. Even if the Gyrocopter is going to be maxing out soon, IG still have a series of growth with their 2 other cores.
Especially looking at this Dragon Knight to just get any damage item with his Moon Shard right now, and he's going to hit really, really hard. He's still got 8 seconds on the BKB, 52 minutes in. After we talked about it, he replaced his cloak for it. What was that, minute 25? Mm-hmm. So he's used it twice in the span of almost half an hour. He's still looking very strong. They're going to get the duel on No-Tail. He is screwed, I think.
Yeah, there's the attempted save. Oh no, the Supernova didn't actually save him. I think he tried to grab Big Daddy No-Tail. But unfortunately, that Supernova doesn't snag him, and it's going to be kind of fruitless here. In fact, that 100 seconds that it's down, IG, they may just choose to try and push in as they just got another one.
Back before this, he can't afford to die.
Luo, he has the opportunity to blink forward soon. Chuan's going to hold him. Misery is going to be going down here. Looks like no saves from Cloud9. 2 supports down, and it's left just up to the cores now to be able to defend the base.
Yeah, they have a 3-on-5 situation. No buybacks on either Shaker or Coddle. 25 seconds on No-Tail, though. They might be able to hold at least one of the barracks until then, but maybe not. There is the glyph. It's buying them a couple of seconds, but
let's note that also
I think it's going to be Megas before Bone7 is out, or sorry, before No-Tail is out.
Yeah, the range racks are already down bottom as well as middle, and they're already focusing on that melee rack. Spotto jumps forward, but he's instantly stunned up. They just continue to go for the building. In fact, Burning, he's even committing all the way. He may just be forced into BKB, though. Force Staff gets him out. IG will start getting themselves out of here. They claimed one of the buildings there.
Nice defensive call down. Very well placed by
Burning. But Eternal Envy, another aggressive blink forward of No-Tail. He hits a big ankle slam, but is it going to be enough? Final lets loose the ultimate, but it's not enough to kill anybody just yet. Burning is being brought lower and lower, but the Shallow Grave is there, and now Fada is going to be the one who dies instead. IG, they take down 1, 2, 3, and there it is. They're able to push uphill, and all that's left is the SF buyback, and there's no way that's going to be enough to defend that last range rags.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
That blink from Envy was just straight up suicidal. I think he was just trying to set up and bait them into an Echo Slime, which he managed to do decently.
Yep.
But it just wasn't enough damage, and now Fata is going to look at his last barracks falling.
It's all over for the team. Oh, there's the Supernova save. Nice play, but it looks like IG will be able to kill that egg before it explodes, and that means they both end up falling. There it is. GG from Cloud9. They fought to the bitter end, and it was coming down to that mid game where IG almost like kind of lost control there. They'd been evened up in the net worth, but then they managed to get hold of the game again, and Cloud9 still fought for the late game. Unfortunately, IG, really good team fights pushing uphill in particular. I mean, you said how dangerous it was to go uphill against the swarm of abilities that Cloud9 had.